There comes a moment in your walk with God when everything around you seems the same, but something inside of you begins to shift. The routine that once brought comfort now feels like confinement. The rhythms that once made you feel safe now stir a quiet restlessness deep within your soul. You're not broken, you're being stirred. You're not confused, you're being prepared. It's not depression, it's divine dislocation, because when God is about to move you to a new season, He first begins by unsettling the one you're in. It's subtle at first. You wake up with questions you never asked before. You feel disconnected from places and people that once felt like home, and you can't quite explain it to anyone because it's not happening outside you, it's happening within. It's spiritual, it's prophetic, it's holy. You're no longer okay with just enough. Your spirit starts longing for more clarity, more purpose, more of God, and less of everything else. And though you don't have answers yet, you feel the questions shaping you in the quiet. God is shifting your alignment. He's moving your heart before He moves your feet. This restlessness is the whisper of heaven saying it's time to grow. It's time to leave what's familiar and walk into what's faithful. And even though it feels uncomfortable, it is confirmation that God is not finished with you. You're being released from the ordinary, because you were never called to live a life of predictable comfort. You were called to walk by faith, and the stirring you feel is heaven's reminder that your current season is not your final one. Don't ignore the restlessness. It's the signal of destiny knocking. It's God saying, I'm about to do something new, and it starts inside of you. There comes a point in your journey with God when the things that used to work simply stop working. The prayers you once prayed with results now echo in silence. The relationships that once gave you strength now feel heavy and distant. The opportunities you used to thrive in suddenly dry up. And it's not because you failed, it's because heaven is shifting the path before your feet the same way. God dried up the brook for Elijah, not to punish him but to push him to the next place of provision and purpose. Sometimes doors don't close because the enemy is fighting you. They close because God is redirecting you, and when you've outgrown the place you're standing in, God will gently remove His grace from it, not to hurt you but to move you. When favor lifts from a season, pay attention. It's not rejection, it's redirection. The job starts draining you, the friendships start fading, the routine starts to feel like prison, and nothing feels the way it used to. That's how you know you've reached the end of that chapter and the start of something new, because God never closes one door without preparing to open a better one, but He needs you to release the old so you can receive the new. It's a holy frustration, a divine dissatisfaction that stirs you to look up and listen in, and even though it may feel like loss, it's actually alignment. He's not removing comfort to hurt you, He's removing the crutch so you can walk by faith again. The doors you thought you needed are being shut so the destiny you never expected can begin to open. Let go of what no longer works. Trust the silence behind the shut door, because God is shifting everything, and what's coming is greater than what's gone. There comes a moment in your walk with God where the crowd fades. The calls stop. The rooms that once echoed with laughter now fall silent, and you wonder where everyone went. But this isn't abandonment. It's alignment. It's not loneliness. It's divine intimacy. God is pulling you away not to punish you but to prepare you, because before God uses you publicly, He always forms you privately. He brings you to a place where it's just you and Him, where the noise dies down and the still small voice starts to rise louder than ever before. It's in isolation that distractions are removed, masks fall off, and you finally meet the real you, not the version shaped by applause or affirmation, but the one God sees, the one He's always been shaping. You start to realize that people can't fill the space in your soul that only God was meant to occupy. And though it hurts to be left out, though it feels like doors are closing on connection and community, something sacred is happening. In that silence, heaven begins to speak. The word becomes alive, your spirit becomes sensitive, and the things of this world start to fade behind the brilliance of His presence. Isolation doesn't mean you're forgotten, it means you're being focused. God is stripping away what's extra to reveal what's eternal, and though it may feel lonely, it's in that Loneliness that you learn to hear the whispers that shift nations the same way. Jesus went into the wilderness before the miracles, the same way Moses was hidden before the mission. God sets you apart, so when he speaks you know it's him. When isolation becomes your companion, let your ears open wide because the voice of God is about to fill the silence. There are seasons when God begins to call you higher, and the first sign is not what opens up, but what starts to fall away. Suddenly the places that once felt like home begin to feel unfamiliar. The people you used to feel close to now seem distant. Conversations become hollow, laughter feels forced, and your spirit quietly knows that something deeper is happening. It's not that they changed, it's that God is changing you, and the more he pulls you into purpose, the less you feel comfortable. In places that no longer carry the oil for your next season, God will never allow comfort to keep you from your calling, so he begins to create divine tension in familiar environments. The same friends that once supported you may no longer understand. You're not because you're better than them, but because your journey is taking a different direction. Abraham had to leave his homeland, Ruth had to walk away from Moab. Joseph had to be separated from his brothers, not because these people were evil, but because God was doing something in them that couldn't be completed in a familiar crowd. Sometimes the separation is protection, sometimes it's preparation, but either way, it's holy and it's necessary. Your spirit begins to crave silence over noise, purpose, over popularity and presence, over people. And as painful as it may be to feel the pull, it's a divine signal that God is calling you deeper. Don't resist the distance. Don't fight the quieting of old voices. God is making space for the sound of his voice to grow louder in your soul. When you feel pulled away, it's because he's pulling you toward something greater, something eternal. And even if you walk alone for a while, trust that heaven is still walking with you. The unfamiliar road is often the path to destiny. When God begins to shift your season, something shifts inside you too. Suddenly your soul becomes quiet, your heart becomes alert, and your spirit starts to lean in. You no longer crave the noise of the world, you begin to hunger for the whispers of heaven. Music doesn't sound the same unless it carries his presence. Conversations feel empty unless they point toward his truth, and distractions that once entertained you now disturb you, because your spirit is awakening to the sound of his voice. It's not always thunder or lightning. Sometimes it's the smallest nudge, the still small whisper that stops you in your tracks and speaks louder than 1,000 voices. You start noticing God in everything, in the wind that brushes past your face, in the pages of scripture that suddenly feel alive, in the silence that used to scare you but now comforts you. It's in this sacred sensitivity that you begin to discern the difference between what's good and what's God, between what's noise and what's direction. You no longer need signs in the sky, because now you can feel his leading within your chest. His peace becomes your confirmation, and his absence becomes your caution. Your spirit starts to recognize what grieves him and what draws him closer. And even when the world keeps spinning fast, you start walking slower, more intentionally tuned in and turned toward him, because when God begins to shift your season, he first tunes your frequency to hear him better. He removes the clutter, silences the chaos, and clears the static, so you can hear that one divine frequency that changes everything. And once you've heard his voice, you can't go back to living on mute. It becomes your compass, your comfort, your confirmation. And in this holy sensitivity you realize he's never been far. You just had to be still enough to hear. When God is about to shift your season, he doesn't just promote you. He prepares you, and preparation always comes with testing. You find yourself in situations that stretch your faith in ways you never imagined. Prayers that once brought immediate answers now echo in silence. Promises that once felt close now seem distant, and in that waiting your faith is refined, your patience is pressed, and your obedience is revealed. It's in this sacred testing ground that God asks you to trust him, even when there's no evidence to hold on to. He asks you to walk forward, even when you can't see the next step. He asks you to obey, even when it costs your comfort and contradicts your understanding. You start to realize that obedience isn't just doing what God says when it makes sense, it's doing it when it breaks your pride and tests your heart, and still choosing to say yes, because trust is proven in the test, and every test is a doorway to transformation. It's where He checks if you're chasing the blessing or the one who gives it. It's where He sees if you can be faithful with silence, loyal with little, and steady under pressure. And though the test may feel like delay, it's actually divine development. God isn't trying to break you. He's building your capacity for the weight of what's coming, and the longer the test, the greater the testimony, because refined faith is unshakable, tested obedience is immovable and proven. Patience births unshakable peace. When you're tested in faith, patience, and obedience, God is not punishing you. He's positioning you for the shift, and when you pass the test, what felt like a desert becomes destiny, and what felt like a delay becomes divine promotion. Hold on, trust hard, obey fully, because breakthrough always follows obedience. When God is shifting your season, the enemy won't always show up with noise. Sometimes He shows up with whispers, the quiet kind of fear that lives in your thoughts. What if it doesn't work? What if you're not ready? What if you heard God wrong? But in the middle of that internal storm, God doesn't argue with fear. He simply gives you peace, a peace that doesn't shout, but settles, a peace that doesn't remove all questions, but removes all panic. And when that peace comes, you know it's not from you, it's from Him, because it defies logic. It arrives in the waiting room before the answer comes. It shows up in the middle of uncertainty and tells you you're still on the right path. Peace doesn't always look like calm. It looks like a calm soul in the middle of chaos. And when your spirit is aligned with God, He uses peace as a compass that confirms what fear tries to hide. That you are chosen, that you are covered, that you are not late, that the shift is still happening even when it's quiet. Peace becomes louder than fear when you stop chasing clarity and start trusting the whisper. And the more you walk in obedience, the more peace becomes familiar. It's not that fear disappears, it just loses its voice, and where fear once made you hesitate, peace now gives you permission to move forward, not recklessly but righteously. And every time you choose peace over panic, you grow stronger in discernment and deeper in trust, because peace is not the absence of trouble, it's the presence of God. And when He is with you, fear has nothing left to say.